Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Welcome to the Next Big Idea Daily. I'm your host, Michael Kovnat. Make sure you're signed up for our free newsletter using the link in the episode notes so you can get these big ideas right in your inbox. Now, when modern Americans go looking for meaning, happiness, or a little self-help, we often turn to ancient wisdom traditions like Buddhism or Stoicism. But those aren't the only traditions worth listening to. Today's author shines a light on another, the Aztecs. Sure, the great Mesoamerican empire is best known for its pyramids and, yes, its human sacrifices, but philosophy professor Sebastian Purcell argues they also developed a surprisingly practical philosophy of daily life, one that says the best way to steady your mind is to begin with your surroundings, your habits, and your community. Here's Sebastian to share ideas from his new book, The Outward Path.
Hey, I'm Sebastian Purcell, and I'm the author of the new book, The Outward Path, The Wisdom of the Aztecs. 5 insights the ancient Aztecs can teach us today. Not long ago, happiness researchers stumbled on a paradox. Imagine this. After a routine checkup, your doctor delivers unsettling news. You have a progressive condition. It will slowly erode your ability to see, hear, move freely, think clearly. Your favorite activities will slip away. Your body will ache, and yet you're likely to be happier. Even without a medical degree, you've probably guessed the diagnosis: old age. The paradox is simple. How can losing so many joys lead to greater happiness? According to researchers, the key is attention. The elderly have usually learned to focus on those things that make life pleasant, on what they can achieve, and what makes their lives valuable without comparing themselves to others. They have, in short, rediscovered a bit of wisdom from Aztec philosophy. While traditions like Buddhism and Stoicism teach you to go inward, to still your mind through meditation and journaling, the Aztecs taught the opposite. Your mind, they believed, is easier to steady if you start with your surroundings, your environment, your habits, your relationships. You take the outward path. So what can we learn from them today? Here are 5 key insights. Insight 1. You aren't really after happiness, you just think that you are. The Florentine Codex contains this striking passage from a father to his daughter. My daughter, my child, hear well. The earth is not simply a good place. It is not simply a place of happiness or joy. It is said only that the earth is a place of happiness fatigue, happiness pain. The word used for happiness in this passage is a form of paki, which means to experience pleasure and enjoy oneself. It's happiness in the barest sense of the term, mere elevated emotional states. And the father is telling his daughter that you can't ever experience that without coming back down to a different state, such as fatigue or pain. Western traditions, by contrast, often elevate happiness as the ultimate goal. It's in the Declaration of Independence. Aristotle wrote volumes about it, but the Aztecs would say, that can't be right. Chasing happiness makes about as much sense as trying to grow 7 feet tall. It's simply not the kind of thing you can control, and even if you could, you'd hit your head on everything. If you prefer the term happiness, then keep it, but you really mean some richer, more encompassing value. The Aztecs used a number of metaphors to refer to this goal, and since many turned on trees with deep roots, or standing on your feet, or living well in your community, I think the best word in English for this constellation is rootedness. You're after a life well rooted in your body, your psyche, society, and the natural environment. To achieve that, you're going to need to make better decisions, and that brings us to the next insight. Insight 2. The wise don't think for themselves. If your goals are clear, then you'll realize something important. You didn't come to them alone. You read, listened, asked questions, argued, and, hopefully, changed your mind. You thought with others. That's why the Aztecs treated decision-making as one of the paradigm external practices. Good judgment isn't a solo achievement. It's a group project. In one passage recorded in the Florentine Codex, a group of merchants gather to discuss travel to another town. The text reads, "And when the host had thus spoken to them, then the principal merchants of all the neighborhoods responded to his words, and they sat in order by rank. At one side, by the wall on the right, were the principal merchants, and on the other side, starting on the left, sat the other sorts of merchants. Capping the ends were the youths. Everyone has a voice, even the young, but those with experience are listened to more carefully. This organizational structure allows for tested wisdom to rise to the top. Today, we can model this by forming what I call an Aztec decision circle. Ask yourself, who do I turn to for advice? On what topics? Do they have a strong track record? Are there enough dissenting voices? What perspectives are missing? When I set my students on this task, they typically realize they haven't built such a circle at all, and that realization alone is progress. But insight isn't enough. Acting on decisions, especially good ones, requires willpower. Insight 3. Willpower isn't one thing, it's 3. A paradox I noticed in graduate school was this: I could study philosophy for 10 hours a day without flinching, but if you left a sleeve of Oreos in the house, I'd eat all of them before noon. I was somehow both disciplined and undisciplined, which is not a great look, especially in a field that prides itself on logic. The Aztecs would have recognized this pattern immediately. Their practices showed that they addressed willpower in 3 forms: as drive for high-intensity action, as durability for consistent effort, and as discipline, namely as resistance to temptation. Running into a flooded basement to salvage your belongings, that's drive. Saying no to cake at midnight, that's discipline. Studying daily for months, durability. They're all forms of willpower, but they require different muscles, so to speak. The Aztec solution is to train all 3. You need different tools for different challenges. Life is not impressed if you show up with a hammer when the job calls for a wrench. They built rituals around all of this, including tasks at dawn, fasting, and physical hardships such as carrying heavy logs. These were conceived not as punishments, but as diagnostics. By participating in them, you find out what you're made of, and more importantly, where you tend to fall apart. There are some things, however, that do not even cross your conscious awareness. Perhaps many, even most, are this way. Insight 4. What crosses your lips pre-frames your mind. External practices, such as the Aztec decision circle, need to be complemented by liminal practices. These are activities that focus on something that stands at the threshold of your consciousness. A paradigm example is right speech, as our words can be consciously selected, but we don't typically know how we'll end a sentence as we begin it. In Volume 6 of the Florentine Codex, a mother tells her daughter to speak in such a way as to preserve her traditional words of wisdom in the chambers of your heart. Right speech for the Aztecs, then, is a practice meant to conserve what is good and upstanding about you at your core. Without a sense of what is good in life, you cannot distinguish right speech from drivel. In another discourse, a few chapters later, a father advises his son on how to be prudent in his public conduct. A key practice is right speech. This includes remaining humble in his demeanor and being true with others. Moreover, he advises that you are to speak slowly and deliberately, and take care of your ears of what you hear. Do not gossip. In short, Aztec right speech intended to protect and promote what is good about your personality. And it has 4 characteristics: speak thoughtfully, speak truly, speak humbly, and don't gossip. Notice how the focus isn't on bad words or blasphemy. The goal with right speech is to achieve alignment between your goals and your thought. There is some contemporary research to suggest that the Aztecs were onto something. The noted psychologist Robert Cialdini relates a story that changed his mind about the impact of small words. He was invited to give a talk at SSM Health, a nonprofit in the medical industry renowned for its stratospheric performance. Yet he was told that in his presentation, he would have to replace specific words. Instead of bullet points, say talking points. Instead of attacking a problem, say approaching a problem. Instead of beat the competition, say outdistance the competition. Befuddled, Cialdini asked, why? Why would such small words matter? The answer, he discovered, is that what crosses your lips preframes your mind. And if your thoughts lead to actions, then words inconsistent with your goals will lead to actions inconsistent with your goals. After contact with our group and researching the topic himself, Cialdini states his new view bluntly. I am a convert now. My response to SSM's strict language policy transformed from, geez, this is silly, to, geez, this is smart. In SSM Health's case, their goal is to improve people's lives through healing. Violent language is inconsistent with that goal, so they eliminated it, or at least as much of it as they could. Right speech is a practice that stands at the threshold of external and internal activities. To move further inward, you might practice meditation, teomania, as the Aztecs called it. But these four insights give rise to a fifth, which is intended to highlight the value of this outward path more broadly. Insight 5. Why the wise follow the outward path. The Florentine Codex presents a passage describing the activities of the learned ones, the philosophers. They are said to hold up a mirror to an interlocutor, allowing them to know themselves to some greater degree of precision. The Aztecs thought this activity was worthwhile then, but how valuable exactly? Hard to say. Philosophy doesn't hand you money or medals, but I think a story can clarify its worth. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist of the best-selling Man's Search for Meaning, once treated a client with what looks like an Aztec goal exercise. The story goes that an elderly doctor entered Frankl's office and conveyed that he'd been inconsolable following his wife's death for 2 years. Frankl asked him whether his wife would have mourned his loss had he died first, and he said that she would have been equally distraught. Whereupon I replied, you see, doctor, such suffering has been spared her, and it was you who have spared her this suffering, to be sure at the price that you now have to survive and mourn her. The man said nothing in reply, but calmly shook Frankl's hand and left. He'd been cured after only 5 minutes by reframing his suffering as something meaningful. What would you pay to move from sorrow to tranquility? Is it worth $10,000? $100,000? More? Philosophy's value lies precisely here, in the intangibles. Its ability to reframe what seemed unbearable into something purposeful. The Aztecs' outward path doesn't negate inner stillness. It simply shows a different way to reach it, through action, ritual, and community. And if that gets you a little closer to being rooted in yourself, in your goals, in the world, then it's done exactly what it was meant to do.
Thank you, Sebastian. All right, everyone, pick up a copy of The Outward Path at your favorite bookstore or use the link in the episode notes. If you got something out of today's show, please leave us a rating and review so others can find it too. That's our show for the day. Hope to see you tomorrow.